Hey guys, welcome to another video and thanks for clicking on this one. In this video, I would like to talk about the TUI Airline MPL Cadet program. This is a program that is open to those that have the right to live and work in the UK. And I know that I do have a lot of people from different parts of the world who are all interested in cadet programs, and often I get a request on making videos that are open to international students. And to be honest, all of these programs are generally tailored to people within certain regions, and that's why I am stating that upfront. So if you're someone that you're looking for a program that is open to international students, at the time of this video, at the time of recording this video anyway, I haven't come across something that is open to international students just yet. Of course, if something comes up, I'll definitely be bringing it to you. So for those of you that have the right to live and work in the UK, I believe this is a video that may benefit you. I'm going to share some information on maybe how to prepare and the tips that you are likely to need. Now, understand that these are just recommendations. Things can always change. The process can always change. At the end of the day, every airline has its own unique way of doing things, and I am just giving a general recommendation of how you can succeed. So one of the first things I'd like to start with is understanding what an MPL program is, or multi-crew pilot license. Really, a multi-crew pilot license is a type of program designed for a specific airline. The goal is that once you have the license, you can fly for that specific airline within the scope of operation that you are approved for. And the reason why this is important is because a lot of times you find some cadet programs that have maybe full ATPL license issued at the end of it, but for this particular program you're issued an MPL. Now, I'm not going to go into details about the restrictions you have and the limitations you might have with an MPL, but at the core of it, it's an opportunity to get into aviation and work as a professional pilot. Now, one of the things I always recommend to people that are preparing for these cadet programs is to understand what the airline is looking for. For the case of TUI, they say they are looking for committed, resilient, and hardworking candidates. That is something that you want to keep in mind, especially maybe as you work on your CV and also as you prepare for that interview. It often helps to understand what the airline is looking for, and you're able to demonstrate those qualities as well. In addition, I always talk about the importance of pilot competencies. And as you know, those pilot competencies are skills and traits that you need to have on an ongoing basis, and hopefully you even develop it over time. And what that means is that before you even get hired, they want to see that you have an understanding of these competencies. And when you get trained as a pilot, you will have to be able to retain and continue to develop those competencies. For the case of TUI, they mentioned we are looking for people with great communication and leadership skills, the ability to remain calm under pressure, resilience to work hard throughout a challenging course, motivation to learn, and ultimately develop into highly skilled professional pilots. These are all pilot competencies and often talked about a lot with any potential opportunity in the aviation industry. And that means that your ability to understand these competencies and demonstrate them during a selection process, during a training event, will really put you up there amongst the best candidates. Now, in order for you to apply to the program, you need to meet certain requirements. And this is where we talk about the eligibility requirements. You have the first one being the age, then you have the education requirements, you have the ability to speak English fluently, eligible to work indefinitely in the UK and live and work, by the way, have a passport, be able to swim, and so on. It is important that you spend some time in this area, and if you have additional questions, you can always check the FAQ for more information. Now, one of the great things about the TUI MPL Cadet program is the fact that it's a fully funded program. As we know, one of the main reasons why people can't get into the aviation industry is the lack of funding. And if you have a program that will sponsor you and give you a job at the end of it, then you definitely would want to put in your best to be amongst the people selected. Hence, the reason why this is also a very competitive program. And this is something that it's a good thing in the sense that if you have all the requirements and you are able to apply and do well, it's great because you'll be sponsored and your training is covered in full. However, If you are the type of person that you're looking for an opportunity and you don't fully prepare, then it will work against you because you have highly qualified candidates that are also competing for the same position. As we can see, the MPL Cadet program includes the following: all course and training costs, all upfront training and license fees, accommodation when required to be away from home during practical phases 1 through 4. You have uniform, ADPL 3 exam fees, all required equipment such as manuals, iPad, etc. And then you have initial class 1 medical and class 1 medical renewals. Those are the things they would cover under this program. Now, the following expenses are not covered: personal travel and food and personal living expenses. Now, upon completion of your training, you will be paid £37,751. And I believe that will go on for about 4 years, considering they've paid for your training. So you have to somewhat pay it back to the airline. And I believe, yes, there is going to be a bond for that reason, because you are required to pay back some of the cost of training. I generally tell people, if you're going to prepare for these programs, spend time planning, working out the schedule that will help you succeed. Because when the program opens up, there's a lot of things that you do, and some of them will have timelines that you have to stick to. With TUI Airlines, the program opens on the 6th of January 2025 and it closes for application on the 31st of January 2025. The outcome of digital interview will be issued via email by the end of March 2025. Assessments will be held between this date, 7th and 11th of April, and simulator assessments will be between 3rd and 7th of May. And then you have the final outcome issued between June and July 2025. All of these are subject to change, as you know that times can change, things can come up. But the point is, this is a scheduled timeline for the selection process. So my advice is you should already be preparing for this. There's some things that you would have to do between the application opening and closing. And some of those things would, of course, be like submitting the CV, writing an essay, maybe taking some online assessments. All those things are things that you should already be preparing for at this stage. Otherwise, you will likely start to rush. And also, they generally will give some deadlines as to when you have to do certain things when the application opens. So the goal is be prepared even before the application opens. Now, the last aspect of things that I always recommend to people is to read the FAQ section. If you select the FAQ section, it takes you to this PDF style page where you can read a lot of questions that are frequently asked and you get answers to them from the airline. It is very important that you spend some time on this page to understand what the airline is looking for, and general questions about funding and the likes. Now, here are my tips for success. Here are the things that you need to keep in mind. Now, if you haven't seen my recent video where I talked about the things I would recommend you do in preparation for any cadet program, then I would suggest that you check that video out. I'll link it below. And I think that video I shared about 10 things that I will start doing or should be doing already in preparation for any cadet program. Now, underneath that video, also in the description, I also shared some other tips as well, like understanding customer service and the likes. Now, the important thing here is this, all right? You should start working towards getting ready. So when it comes to getting your CV ready, when it comes to having an understanding of why you want to be a pilot, that is a question that you will always get asked almost every time. Even in any interview, they will generally ask you that question of why do you want to fly for this airline, or why do you want to work as a pilot? If you're someone that is transitioning from a different field, then you should understand the reasons why you're changing field, especially if you're coming from a totally different field that is outside of aviation. If you're maybe a cabin crew, then it might be easier to move in the direction of becoming a pilot. However, if let's say you are somebody that works as an accountant and then you're trying to transition into the role of a pilot, then you have to have a solid reason as to why you want to do this. The reason is because understand that the airline is sponsoring you, and they do not want a situation where you start a process and then you quit because it's not really what you think you want. That is a big deal for these airlines, especially when they are funding the program. The next thing I also say is, pilotassessment.com. You can always check it out for programs or packages that can help you to simulate some of the things that you will be taking, whether it's questions, whether it's the math, whether it's the physics. All these different aspects are things that you can prepare for at this stage. Now, understand that there's no amount of preparation that is too much for these cadet programs. I'll be honest with you, because of the cost that is involved in the process. So the more prepared you are, the better you are likely to perform. So do not downplay the importance of using these programs, as they can definitely help you. The other thing that I have somewhere at the description of this video will be the Understanding Pilot Competencies guide. I have that guide there because I realized that from experience, a lot of people that are outside of aviation do not understand the pilot competencies and how they can demonstrate those competencies. And that's why I decided to make the guide something affordable that you can check out. Now, one of the areas that I also encourage you to prepare adequately for will be the math assessments. Now, generally speaking, the math assessment is where a lot of people trip up. Most of these programs actually do test you on your math and your ability to do those GCSE level maths, all right? And sometimes that can be challenging for some people. And I would say that you spend time reviewing some of those concepts. Now, the next area would then be preparing for the interviews. You see, your interview is where they get to see you, get to meet you, get to understand who you are. And this is where your personality plays a big role. You can't really change who you are. So the point here is put some effort into showing the great personality, and hopefully the good sides of who you are will be enough to convince them that you have what it takes. And don't forget, the pilot competencies are very important during these stages as well. Generally speaking, when you do these assessments at the assessment center, you would have to do some group exercises as well. And this is where you may need to understand what they look for when it comes to group exercises. So spend some time to understand the tips that are out there in demonstrating that you have maybe leadership skills or great communication skills. And like I said, understanding the pilot competency guide that I have talks about some of this as well. But the key thing here is do some research in these areas so that you are fully prepared for this opportunity. The last but not least would be the simulator assessment as well. Understand that you need to have some skills of flying, even though you may not have flown in a real airplane. Maybe it's a flight simulator that you use, or it's an X-plane. The point here is have some understanding of how an airplane flies and be able to demonstrate that you can be a great team player, be familiar with some concepts in flying, using a checklist, and maybe doing the call outs, maybe be familiarize yourself with the mode control panel, especially for a 737 airplane. Understand what a PFD is, or an ND, or the ICAS, whatever the systems may be on the 737, which I'm not too familiar with. But the point here is, if you have a flight simulator, you can easily practice to understand what the instruments tell you and what they do. This would help you to prepare for this opportunity. If you have found value in this one, please don't forget to drop a like on it. It takes a long time to sometimes make these videos, and even though you may see the final result to be maybe 11 minutes, at the time of recording this, I've been recording for about 26 minutes because of retakes and all that stuff. So if you find value in it, please don't forget to drop a like on it. I would appreciate you letting me know that you watched till the end. Definitely encourages me to put more effort and put more time into this, and I'll see you in the next one.